forge ahead as a father in faith. Before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about me. A lot of people like to know your presenters, right? So I graduated from Martin Luther College back in 2011 with a Bachelor of Arts pre-seminary program. Yes, that picture is of me live at Kingdom Prep. If you look at Kingdom Prep's website and look up who I am, that's me there, okay? Then I went to the seminary in 2011 to 2013. About halfway through my vicar year, it just wasn't working out. It just wasn't a right fit. It just wasn't where it's supposed to be. And so I left the seminary. I took time away, figure out what I'm going to do. And that's where I fell in love with urban ministry and especially working with kids, letting them know about their Savior. And so I got a master's in education in 2017 from Concordia, which is like right next door to the seminary, kind of, over in Mequon. My wife and I, we were drowning in debt when we first got married in 2011, and we're like, what are we going to do? We have no money. I just left the seminary. We have not. And so luckily, I was able to become a house parent at Wisconsin Lutheran High School. If you drive past down there, Milwaukee now, they have these huge high-rise buildings where it's like super like organized. I didn't live in those, okay? I lived in a house with 8 Chinese boys and a Canadian boy. And we were kind of thrown into how do you raise teenage boys and work with those teenage boys. And it was a great experience. God blessed us in it and helped us see how to have critical relationships with the boys, on how to work with them and raise them up. A lot of these guys were completely unchurched, didn't know Jesus, and some of them did know and still struggled, and we worked through a lot of really difficult conversations, long nights. My pal Micah Ricky was here. He was my leader there when we were doing that, so God was good. In 2015, I received a call to serve as the Dean of Students at the middle school campus of Mount Lebanon Lutheran School in Milwaukee. I was able to faithfully serve there from 2015 to 2019 when all of a sudden I got a call to serve at Kingdom Prep Lutheran High School. It started as a history teacher call where I was able to teach American history and like specific like Roman history classes. But when I got there, it was a brand new high school. It had existed for 1 year. And we got there, and there wasn't much of a religion curriculum. And so all of a sudden, I was like nudged back into this like religion curriculum area, and I started to develop the ideas around it. What do we want our boys to know? A lot of the guys who are at Kingdom Prep don't really know much. They're very young in their faith. And so there's not a lot of knowledge about it. So how do we build that? And eventually they said, you're going to be the religion chair. And I said, okay, sounds good. Now, a lot of you might recognize my face if you've ever been to Milwaukee. And it's not because of any of these. And these things are cool. The God is good here. But the thing I'm most proud of, I wouldn't say I was most proud of. That might be an overstep. The thing that a lot of people recognize me when they come to Milwaukee, you may have even seen me. I might have walked past you multiple times going up and down and up and down because I am also a beer vendor at Miller Park during the summers. What do teachers do in order to keep money coming in? They find other jobs. So I work as a beer vendor at Miller Park and able to serve those things, and it's wonderful. And then the big thing that happened recently, because Kingdom Prep is kind of like nudged me into the religion share situation, and now there's questions of like, could we possibly start congregational life at Kingdom Prep? And this is a different presentation for a different time, but the whole point is like, they're like, yeah, we really want to start it, and we don't want to call anybody else because there's no pastors to go around. So Ryan, you went to seminary, you can start it. And I said, that's not how it works. You don't just go to seminary and say, I'm going to be a pastor now. That's not how it works. I got to do this. They say, no, we really want you. I said, I don't think it's going to work. And then they talked to the DP, and the DP said, you were a good student. Why don't you go back to SEM? And so this year, I'm doing my final year at Wisconsin Lutheran Seminary as a senior, which is why I brought my dogmatics homework with me, thinking I'd get some of it done. I probably won't. But Then next year, I'm going to go out and serve as a vicar, kind of do it backwards from what our seminary usually does. I'm doing my full year academic stuff. I'm going to go out and serve, and then hopefully the idea is that we'll go back to Kingdom Prep and see what we can do there. And so God is blessing my life immensely. But my life is not very much without these people, these monsters. And, well, my wife is not a monster. She's the love of my life. My wife, Tracy, we were married in 2011 when we graduated from MLC together. We waited to have kids because of debt and all this other stuff. But then when they came, they just started coming one right after the other. Phineas is our guy in the cowboy hat down here. He's our 6-year-old. Uriah is 5 years old. He's the guy with the custard up on the top. He just turned 5 yesterday, actually. It was his birthday, so happy birthday, Uriah. Japheth, he was his 3rd birthday, actually, on Tuesday. We timed them out. At least, they came fast, but we're timing them out right. And then Ananias is our 9-month-old. And God has just blessed me. I was a house parent for all boys when I was at Wisconsin Lutheran High School, and I said, this must have been the training that God was giving me so that I could manage all of these. And, if you've got, I got to have a nice picture of us. My wife would kill me if she didn't say, put a nice picture of us up there. So that's my wonderful family up there. And, when it rains, it pours. And so we also are going to have twins. We just found out on Monday we're going to have twins coming in September. So God is good. God is very good to us. And this is so awesome. All those wonderful things that God has led me to be in my life, and this wonderful family that God has gathered around me. And I just stand back in awe at God's mercy to me. Because the truth is this: it's not where I started. This is where I started. This is the house that I started in. Lived there until about 5th grade. Trailer park in Inver Grove Heights, Minnesota. 1985, I was born as an only child to a single mother on an extramarital affair. The guy was actually had a wife, and she had already 4 daughters of her own. She got involved with him at her work at the Moose Lodge, and I came about. And it was just kind of like, okay. And he never got involved. He said, my life is over here. As a father, I'm a father to this daughter. I'm a wife. I'm a husband to this wife. I'm not going to get involved over here. You have to figure it out, Ellen. And okay, that was kind of what it was. Grew up in poverty, a single mother, working. My mom had a high school degree from Wisconsin Lutheran High School, but that was it. She worked really hard. She's the hardest working woman I know. Honestly, she just poured herself into her work. But it was hard still because she just didn't have the money, didn't have the means to be able to support herself. And it was very difficult living in a trailer park and kind of figuring things out. I was blessed because I got to go to Wells grade school from 1990 to 1992, but I had behavior issues, as you'd expect from a young man who has no father in his life, doesn't have the wisdom and the growth that a father needs in order to give him what he needs. And so my mom found out that I probably spent about 75% of the time out in the hallway, because at that time there was no special education at the Wells grade school. And so whenever behavior was a problem, they just sent me out of the room. And I found out it was a lot easier to misbehave and get sent out of the room and be able to be in daydream land than it was to be in the room and be in the reality of life that was really difficult. Even as a young boy, I recognized those things. In 1998, when I was 13, my behavior problems became bad enough that my mom couldn't handle me either. And so she sent me to a residential treatment facility. This is in St. Paul, Minnesota. It's called the Wilder Foundation Annex Facility, where literally they have young boys and adolescents and teens and kids who are middle school age who are not able to function behaviorally in society because it's just a difficult thing, and they give you this really difficult, intense behavioral treatment in order to try to figure out what is going on. How can we help? In 1999, when I finished my residency there, it was decided that instead of going back home to my mom, that instead I should move into a foster home in Stillwater, Minnesota. And so Stillwater became my home. It's there that I connected with a Wells church, small little church, St. John's in Baytown. We had like 2 other kids who were my age who we hung out with, had a teeny little youth group, and I was confirmed there. And things looked like they were getting better. Things looked like they were getting at least moderately better in my life. But then, in 2002, when I was going into my senior year of high school, my foster parents knew that I would no longer be able to be a long-term provider for them for income if I graduate. And they had an opportunity to bring in a younger child who was probably in like 5th or 6th grade, and they'd have a longer stream of revenue with him. And so they asked me to leave. I got moved into a group home in 2002 in Prior Lake, and I lived my senior year of high school there. That was very difficult for me. The pastor who had confirmed me had actually taken a call elsewhere, and I just really began to just downward spiral in that, where I'd had this nudge up in my faith life. It began to kind of slowly, the floor was pulled out from under me in that. And then in 2003, I made the greatest decision of my life. I moved into an apartment with a friend after I graduated from high school. If you can't pick up the sarcasm in my voice, it's because I might be laying it on a little too thick. It was the worst decision ever. Never let a couple of 18-year-old guys decide we're going to live in an apartment we can't possibly afford. We moved in with him, and then promptly a year later, we were evicted. I dropped out of the local community college that I was nominally going to, because you're supposed to go to college after high school. That's the thing you're supposed to do. And I just decided I'm going to go out on my own. I'm going to be a builder. I'm going to do all kinds of different things. I don't have to do education. I don't need the church. I don't need any of that stuff. I will figure it out on my own. My mom figured it out. I'll figure it out. It'll be just fine. And then late in 2004, after I had this epiphany that I'm going to figure everything out, I fell out of a 3rd-story window. I was demoing a house for a construction company, and managed to accidentally throw myself out the window with a piece of garbage that I was throwing into a dumpster below. Tumbled out of it, fell down, broke my back a couple of places. Didn't have to wear a brace. It was a convenient break. It all healed on itself right here, which was nice. But it was just really difficult. And I'm laying in the hospital bed, and I'm realizing that to this point, I'm going to be honest, I hadn't been in a regular worship service in over 4 years. My faith life was in tatters. I'm not going to say I lost my faith, because I'm confident in the grace of Jesus that even a mustard seed is going to be able to grow a plant enormous. But I'm going to be honest, I was on the hinge, and it was really, really difficult. Fast forward about a year and a half, 2006, I enrolled at Martin Luther College. Wait a minute. If you were reading a chapter book and you were reading and you're saying to yourselves a novel and you said, there's something missing here. How could there be this downward spiral of negative events, difficult stuff that's happening, and then all of a sudden my life changes? What is going on? Well, before I enrolled in Martin Luther College, after I'd been evicted, I had nowhere to go. And that tall drink of water right there in the red sweater, that's my mother. And she invited me to move back in with her. Come back home. This is where you should be. Let's get over the past and work together. And this is what I call the faithful love in a Sunday morning Chinese water torture. What really began the change was every single Sunday morning, my mom would walk in to my room at 7:20, open the door and say, "Ryan, do you want to come to church with me?" And I'd say, "No, go away." "Okay." And she'd close the door. The very next Sunday, like clockwork, 7:20, "Ryan, do you want to go to church with me?" "No." "Okay." She'd close the door. On and on and on. 15, 20 weeks, every Sunday morning, even if I had been out late on Saturday night like a foolish young man would be. Every single morning. Well, finally one morning, she comes in at 7:20. Said, "I'm tired of you coming in at 7:20, Mom. I'll make you a deal. I'll go to church with you. And I'll prove to you that I'm not supposed to be there. that the people don't want me there. I had Sunday school teachers that I made cry because of how I would just be just absolute terror to them, trying to make me memorize stuff. No way. It was awful. I said, know what? I'm going to go with you, and you're going to see. Nobody there wants me. But when you find out nobody wants me, you have to leave me alone and let me just enjoy a Sunday morning's rest without you interrupting me. And she said, deal. I think my mom was wiser than I could have ever known, because the next thing that caused the change was the persistent love of a congregation with a short-term memory problem. When I got into church, there were a lot of people who knew me as a child, as a reckless, dangerous, behavior problem child. That's my church, St. John's Hastings. It's where my mom was at. And we went in, and everybody was excited to see me. Every person there, the men in that church even gathered around me and said, Ryan, it's so good to have you back. This is the right path. This is what's good. It's right. And I couldn't believe that people were excited to actually see me come back to worship, right? Well, that wasn't it. What causes the real change is kind of what Professor Treptow's talking about. It's not what other people say about me. It's not what I say about me. It's looking at the overwhelming love of a God who would rather risk losing himself than losing me. And that brought me back. It was a changing moment. It was a catalyst time in my life that allowed the Holy Spirit to break down the walls of the defense that I had built up against him, and him to cause a miracle in me, to change me, and to get me now where I'm at a point in my life I'm just completely in his grace. But the question I want to ask, we're not here to talk about my life. We're here to talk about being a dad. The question I have then is, what did it all stem from? This downward spiral that luckily, by God's grace, I was able to find my way out of, that God gave me the ability to come out of. Where did it all stem from? What's never been present from the beginning, the very first slide, never made contact with my father. I have never known the man who fathered me, not a day of my life. I have never met him in person. I have never talked to him. He has never, ever been a part of my life in any way at all. Over the years, I had tried to reach out. I'd gotten his address. I knew his address. I knew his name, all these things. In 2022, finally, I wrote him a letter. And I just said, all these years, you don't know what you caused, but God had good intentions for it. I call it my Joseph letter, right? You don't know how bad and hard it was, but God had good intention for it, and I forgave him. And I said, no matter what caused it, no matter what was hard about it, I want you to know, even if you don't reach out and talk to me again, even if you throw this in the garbage, even if you don't read it, you need to know, I forgive you, and I want you to know, more importantly, Christ forgives you, and there's still an opportunity for you to be a man, and to understand that and know that. Sadly, I haven't heard from him. I still don't know him, still don't know who he is. I know that he is alive, but I don't know him. I haven't never met him. So why are you leading a breakout session on fatherhood if you have never, ever known your dad? That seems a little bit strange, right? It doesn't make sense. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to be a better dad, or I'm trying to figure out how to teach my son how to be a dad. I'm trying to figure out whatever it is for fatherhood. Why am I having this guy up here who's never had a dad in his life try to tell me what it means to forge ahead as a father? But I think that's the key. The mission statement, our key verse for our conference today, forging ahead. You continue to forge ahead as a father. You don't give up. You don't stop. But just because I didn't have a dad in my life doesn't mean I didn't have father figures along the way. There were good father figures, but the ones I immediately think of from my childhood, from the 90s, it was a long time ago, folks. The dads who influenced me are these guys. These are the dads who I regularly saw, and they were the ones who gave me influence. I watched a lot of TV. When you are a son of a single mother and she's working in the afternoons in order to make ends meet, you get a latchkey and you open the door, you sit down and you watch a lot of television. I watched a lot of television, and these guys were the ones who taught me what fatherhood looked like. And that might be one of the big problems or one of the reasons why. But this was a picture of it. And what's their advice? What's the advice of these men? Well, I'll give it to you all in a nutshell from our favorite one, Homer Simpson.
The 3 little sentences that will get you through life. Number 1, cover for me. Number 2, oh, good idea, boss. Number 3, like that when I got here. Woman is not like a refrigerator. They're about 6 feet tall, 300 pounds. They make ice and... Oh, wait a minute. Actually, a woman is more like a beer. They smell good. They look good. You can step over your own mother just to get one. But you can't stop at one. You want to drink another woman.
2 wrongs don't make a right, Clark.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
2 wrongs make a right, Lisa.
You're the one who told me I could do anything if I just put my mind to it.
Well, now that you're a little bit older, I can tell you that's a crock. No matter how good you are at something, there's always about 1 million people better than you.
Trust it. Can't win, don't try.
If something's hard to do, then it's not worth doing. And I hope you learned your lesson, Lisa. Never help anyone. If you don't like your job, you don't strike. You just go in every day and do it really half-assed. That's the American way. Let that be a lesson to you, sweetie. Never love anything.
Even you?
Especially me. Trying is the first step towards failure. Kid, you tried your best, and you failed miserably. The lesson is, never try.
So that is, in a nutshell, is their advice. And what is it that the TV dads in the 90s taught me? What are dads? What do they look like? They're incompetent. They're foolish. They're lazy. A lot of times they get angry, stubborn, unsupportive, arrogant, sexist, uneducated. You look at that list of guys, and that's what the media was portraying, especially in the late 80s, early 90s, all the way through the 90s even. There was this idea of father on television, that this was what it looked like. And the truth is, let's be honest, it was probably satirical, right? The 1990s and 2000s, a lot of these ideas about fatherhood, the purpose behind them was it was satire. It's funny. It makes you laugh. It's so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. But the truth is that if we really dig deep into satire, there's a kernel of truth in everything that is satirical. There's something somebody feels, and the reason it's funny is because a lot of times people say it's kind of real. There are dads who are kind of like this. And then you take what happened in the 90s and 2000s, and you fast forward that into the current culture we live in today. And although it was satirical at that time, what has happened is those have become dangerous views in our modern society, in the world we live in and interact in today. What was funny then is now real. This is what the world expects from fathers. This is how a lot of times fatherhood is viewed from a secular point of view. And there are some dangerous things that have come to be from that. I'm going to discuss those dangerous things, but before I do, I want to give you guys a word of warning. There's about 5 different things I'm going to discuss that are dangerous things that fathers have started, that the world thinks that fathers are, how the world views men. But before I go through with that, the word of warning I want to give you is this. The pendulum swing from father as head of household, loving, compassionate, to this other thing is a dangerous thing, but it's also a real temptation. There are a lot of men in our world today who exemplify the ideologies I'm about to talk about. They're ideologies you guys know well. And there are men who live them, who honestly believe that these things are true and this is what it means to be a man. Stand up to dads who promote the things I'm about to say. That's the most important thing. I'm going to talk against them and say why men are so important compared to these ideologies. But if you see a man who's actually doing these things, it's our duty as a Christian brother to stand up to that man and say, no, this is not what God has called us to be. Instead, Teach love's Christ with them instead. Give them a knowledge of what God wants us to be, a servant. So the first of those is this. How does the world view fathers today? Number one, most importantly, dads have ruined the world. There's this idea of patriarchy. This is a word that gets thrown a lot. It's been thrown a lot around before, and it's kind of like been established and entrenched, and sometimes they might use other words that kind of get around it. But the idea of patriarchy is this, that a social organization of the world, everything that's made up in the world, makes dad supreme over everything. That children's legal dependence is upon dad, and dad is the ultimate authority, and whatever dad says goes. He is the king of the castle, and it doesn't matter if it's bad for the family. If dad wants it, that's what it is. That's what the patriarchy teaches. They teach that men have controlled society for a very long time. If you go back in history, it's his story, right? History is all about men. And the reason we have the troubles that are so bad in the world today are because men have led it in the wrong way. They have ruined the world we live in. Notice they take what's really wrong with the world, sin, and our sinful nature, that both men and women and children and all living people are corrupted with, and they say, let's not put the excuse on sin and recognize sin and try to fight against it. Instead, let's take that and plaster it on fathers and on men who rule the world and say, if we can just get rid of men in positions of power, things will be so much better. How else does the world view fathers? Dads are incompetent. They're dumb. They don't have what it takes. How do we know this? Because women are starting to get put into places of power now. And now that women are being placed in positions of power, you're seeing a better thing. This is the idea of feminism, right? The women in the world have been held back by men for a long time, and it's because they're insecure about their own incompetence. And if we can just clear men out of the way and give a path for women completely forward so that it is basically run and established and ruled by women, things will become better. Now, like I said, there's danger in not respecting women. Like I said, that's one of the caveats I said at the beginning, that there is true power. And I'm not saying women are a little more incompetent than men. I'm saying we both have issues and deformities and destruction. But realistically, the problem is this. Feminism is no longer feminism. Feminism, in a lot of ways, when you talk about a feminist, has become misandry. Misandry is the idea that women are superior to men and that women need to make sure that bring men back down. This political cartoon kind of illustrates it, the idea that it started off with equal rights and votes for women, and it's become a place where the view is that all men are scum and that we are terrible. And the only way to get the world back is to get men out of the way. Sweep them out. How does our society view fathers? Dads are the cause of problems. I'm really sad because my buddy, Pastor Tyler Shinnick, is leading a section on toxic masculinity, and the powers that be put me and his section and my section at the exact same time. So I won't be able to see him. I'll have to listen to the podcast. It's a shout out for Pastor Shinnick here, for everybody listening at home. Listen to Pastor Shinnick's presentation. The idea of toxic masculinity is basically this. Dads are dangerous because masculinity drives terrible problems. Masculinity is dominant. It's tough. It's sex-driven. It's power-hungry. It's violent. It lacks emotion. And because men force this idea and this stereotype on society and the place that we live, dads are the cause of problems. Get dads and men out of the way, and you will receive a more loving, more nurturing, happier person all around, and society will benefit because of it. This is just a clip from the internet. I have no belief or both support behind it, so these numbers could be completely made up. But I like the idea of it. 43% of boys are raised by single mothers. I could see that being a true stat. 78% of teachers are female. The teaching profession is heavily dominated by females. Close to 50% of boys have 100% female influence at home and 80% female influence at school. Toxic masculinity isn't the problem. It's the lack of real masculinity. The toxic things exist, and like I said, we need to fight against those things as men for dads and fathers who are doing those things. But the bigger thing is this. We can't mute masculinity because in masculinity is courage. In masculinity is drive. In masculinity is brotherhood and united and being united. Those are the good things, and we need to find a way of bringing the good things back so that we can continue to take society and make it the way it's supposed to be. Not knocking out feminine qualities either, because men need those too, but specifically not letting masculinity become this terrible, diverse, bad thing. Next, how does society view fathers? Dads prevent happiness. This is a shocking thing for me because divorce is really at the key of this. When I was young, and it was a long time ago, in the 90s, there was still this idea that divorce was not a good endgame. Divorce was bad. That when you made a commitment to a woman, and this is even outside of the church, you need to fulfill that commitment. You said you were going to do something, so do it. What shocked me is as I was looking at divorce and thinking about this within this topic, I came across this article. It's a Brightside article written this past summer, I believe. And in it, they cite these reasons that divorce is good. They're teaching society that getting rid of your man or shedding your marriage in general is a good thing because of these reasons. You might be able to find the right one. Emphasis on, well, right now, that guy you're with, he's obviously the wrong one. You might get more energy for your personal growth because you won't have so much constriction with your husband. You might feel happier. I put feelings in quotes because feelings are relative. Your kids are going to be happier too. Just don't believe that lie. I hadn't lived from a divorced home, but I've been in a single-parent home, and I've talked to friends who've been in divorced homes. That is not a truth. Don't believe that lie. It'll improve your health. You'll look better. And you know what? Here's the craziest thing. It'll make your retirement easier. And they outline in this article all of these wonderful things for divorce, and they're championing divorce and saying it is a good thing, do it. Your marriage to that man is keeping you from being happy. So, of course, and oh man, Micah, am I glad you're here today. We're going to learn a lesson from Mrs. Doubtfire. Mrs. Doubtfire, obviously, if you haven't, raise your hands. Who's seen Mrs. Doubtfire before? Okay, we don't have to explain the movie then. You know it. You love it. Mrs. Doubtfire, this is the last scene, and I remember watching this as a kid and being like, oh, this is so great. But as I got older and became a man and I thought about this might be one of those places where this might be that kernel that developed into a full-grown plant of divorce. Listen to Mrs. Doubtfire's advice on love and divorce.
Dear Mrs. Doubtfire, 2 months ago, my mom and dad decided to separate. Now we live in different houses. My brother Andrew says that we aren't to be a family anymore. Is this true? Did I lose my family? Is there anything I could do to get my parents back together? Sincerely, Katie McCoy. Oh, my dear Katie. You know, some parents, when they're angry, they get along much better when they don't live together. They don't fight all the time, and they can become better people and much better mommies and daddies for you. And sometimes they get back together. And sometimes they don't, dear. And if they don't blame yourself. Just because they don't love each other anymore doesn't mean that they don't love you. So there are all sorts of different families, Katie. Some families have one mommy, some families have one daddy, or 2 families. And some children live with their uncle or aunt, and some live with their grandparents, and some children live with foster parents. And some live in separate homes with separate neighborhoods in different areas of the country. And they may not see each other for days, weeks, months, even years at a time. But if there's love, dear, those are the ties that bind, and you'll have a family in your heart forever. All my love to you, Poppet. You're going to be all right.
The heartwarming message out of Mrs. Doubtfire and the late Robin Williams. These are the quotes that caught my eye in this section. Just because they don't love each other anymore doesn't mean that they won't love you. Followed closely by, but if there's love, dear, I can't do the Robin Williams voice, I'm sorry. But if there's love, dear, I'm sorry. Those are the ties that bind. What I thought about immediately was this. You had made a promise to that woman that you would love her in sickness and in health, in all situations in life, and that no matter what, you would be with her. This is a blanket promise to love your children in the same way. Well, what happens when Natalie grows into her teen years? And all of a sudden she becomes angsty and difficult and hard to manage. Can you stop loving her too now? Because it's hard? That's the difficult truth that our society wants to say. I want to say marriage is, you can dispose of marriage, but your children, you won't. And I would say, the same love you have for your children, have for your spouse. Work at it. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be sunshine and rainbows. But you have to keep going. The last thing that our society says about fathers is this, that dads are obsolete. Families should not need a man in order to support them. Single women and the welfare state is strong in our society today. That if a woman can't on her own raise a family or children, don't go find a husband. Don't find a support system that lives in your house and cherishes you and builds you up. No. The state will help you. Dads are obsolete. Don't worry about that. Instead, go to the state. The state will help you out. And the hard part is we all know what that leads to. It just leads to more and more problems. I am a benefit and I'm a blessing of God because I was able to get out of that track. But that track self-cycles. The obvious conclusion on society's view on fathers is we don't need them. Today's view of fatherhood is this. We don't need fathers in our lives. And society doesn't need them as a whole. And we would be a lot better off if dads just rode into the sunset and let the world move on. But there's a problem. If you look at our statistics in the world, dads are disappearing. And what happens when dad disappears? Out of birth wedlocks today are here. This is just a quick summary. So dads are disappearing. You can see it. 40% of U.S. children are born without a father in their home. In the city of Milwaukee, where I am from, 85% of children born in Milwaukee are born to single mothers. 85%. And if the theory that dads are obsolete and the world would be better without dads, you'd say to yourself, well, Milwaukee must be a utopia. It must be just a bastion of paradise for all people, right? And if you've ever been to Milwaukee, once again, my sarcasm should be sneaking through. This is not the case, and it is in a difficult place, right? Here are the problems with fatherlessness. 72.2% of Americans were polled. These are a little bit older stats on the screen, I know, but they still stand true today. Absentee fathers is the most significant problems in our society today. Poverty. Children born in families without a father living in them are way more likely to live in poverty. You can see the numbers there on the screen. Blue is if you live in a female-headed household, what are your chances of being in poverty? 47.6%. That's over 10 years ago. Today, I don't have a graphic for it, but it's hovering right around 50% still. 50% chance that you will be in poverty your whole life if you don't have a father living in your home with you, compared to the chances of a married couple. I'm going to run through these last ones really quickly because you know them, and it's depressing, and we're here to hear some hope, and I want to make sure I get to the hope at the end. Drug and alcohol abuse skyrocket in homes without fathers in them. Mental health becomes increasingly difficult. Children without fathers in their home are more than half as likely to commit suicide within their lifetime. the dropping out of school, the education that children get is much, much, much lower if a dad is not living in a house with their child. Crime increases. But the cool thing, this is the crazy thing. You ready for this? Is the good news for those of you guys who are dads. This is the thing I found in the research that I wanted to make sure I add. In neighborhoods that have a majority of households that mothers and fathers are living in, crime drops off the map by 92%. 92% less crime in neighborhoods with dads. Anyone want to take a guess why they think that is? Because you don't mess with dad. People who are criminals know that there is a responsible man living in this community, and if I'm going to get away with this crime, I don't want a bunch of guys looking out the window holding me accountable. I want to go to a place where they don't exist and I can do whatever I want. That's a terrifying thought, right? And then, of course, the most dangerous thing, without a father in the home, you're not able to teach young women what a man should look like for their daughter, and young men are not able to learn how to respect a mom who lives in the house. It's not impossible, but it's a lot more difficult with sexual activity and teen pregnancy. But the issues, these are all secular issues, things that exist in the world. What about church? Church attendance. What day of the church year has the most people, any Sunday, the whole year? What day do most attendance in church? Christmas. Christmas is correct. Christmas is correct. Yep, first is Christmas. Second? Easter. Third? Mother's Day. Mother's Day is the third most attended Sunday across all denominations in the Christian church in America. All the way across. Why? Make mom happy. What does mom want more than anything else? She wants all her babies to come back home, her husband to look nice, and we all sit in church, and we're all going to have a family moment together. Lowest church attendance across all denominations? Father's Day. Father's Day across all denominations, this includes the Wells, is the lowest attended Sunday. It's in the summer, yes, but more than that, what does dad want? I want to go golfing. I want to go fishing. More important than anything else, I want you people to leave me alone. I want some time to myself. Can't I just have one day to myself? And so church attendance flies down there. But it goes deeper than that. I'm going to put these stats up here and let you see them real quick. I'll run through them. Let's say mom goes to church every day with the kids. Every Sunday with the kids. Dad, I'm not involved, not interested. It's not something I want. 1 in 50 children will become a regular worshiper. 1 in 50 of those kids who go with mom to church every single Sunday will become a regular worshiper. If dad is the one and mom stays home and says, I want nothing to do with it, 3/4 to 2/3 of kids continue in the faith and become regular worshipers. A lot of our churches are doing early childhood education, and I think it's a really good thing as a tool of evangelism. I'm not knocking this at all. Please understand that. But we got to figure out a better way, because if the child is the first person to go, Mom, Dad, I'm singing in church this week, we should go. They're going to be like, okay. And then the next week they're going to be like, let's stay home, right? Because that's the way it is. If mom shows up and says, family, I just met this wonderful woman. She's such a spiritual advisor. She's invited me to church. She says we should all go together. About 17% of the time, you're going to get the family in. But if a father is the first person contacted, dad is the first person, he comes home and he says, I met a group of guys. They're changing the world. They're changing life. They're changing how I feel. 93% of the time, the whole family will come along to church and they will remain a regular, faithful member. Men drive the church. These are just numbers. These are statistics. And it's good that we do the other things. But something about the headship of man that Scripture speaks about is true. Fathers, lead your family. And that's the way you go. You forge on ahead in those ways. Conclusion, we really need good dads. We really need good dads. The world is saying don't do it. But we're saying fatherhood is so necessary for our world today if we want to keep going. But better dads are not born. They're built. And if we're going to forge ahead as fathers, we need to remind ourselves that it's not a simple act of saying, I'm going to be a good dad this week and I'm going to do the right thing. That's not how it works. What builds better dads? As someone who never had a good father, who do I turn to? Now there's a lot of guys. I've got brothers who had good fathers, and I talk to them a lot about advice. There are, my grandfather was an incredible influence in my life, lifelong Lutheran. There are a lot of really good people who I turn to, but that's not where I get most of my advice. Psalm 68:15 says this: a father to the fatherless, a defender of widows, is God in his holy dwelling. If I'm the fatherless and I'm looking for my father, I look for him in his holy dwelling. And where is his dwelling? It's in his word. It's in his word. Getting back into our scripture, into our Bible, building a personal devotion life, a marriage devotion life, a children's devotional life. Being in God's word is the number one most important piece in puzzling together how a dad can forge on and continue to do this. Now, a lot of what I'm about to say, you guys, it's going to be obvious to you. So this last part of the presentation, first part was all information. The very last, how many minutes do I have left? 8. I have 8 minutes left. In the last 8 minutes, I'm going to tell you all stuff you already know. And so you're going to go, okay, great. But I'm hoping that you'll use it. It'll be a reminder to you. That'll be something that you put back to the front of your mind so you can think about it and you can live it and use it in your life. Number 1, obviously, love your children. But love them when they're even hard to love. When they've made foolish and stupid mistakes. And they've run away from you. Like the father and the prodigal son, while he was still far away, his father saw him. He's filled with compassion with him. And he doesn't wait for his son to come marching up to him. He runs to his son and he wraps his arm around that boy and gives him the love of a father. Love your children. Matthew 7. Who among you, if his son asks him for bread, would give him a stone? Or if his son asked for a fish, would give him a snake? Then if you know how to give good gifts to your children, even though you're evil, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? When you give the gifts to your children, when you show them the love, it reminds them that they have a Father in heaven who does the same thing for them in the difficult parts of their life. You are exemplifying what God does in his life for you in your life. When Jesus saw this, he said, let the little children come to me. Do not hinder them. I love this verse. And I'll tell you why, because my life is crazy right now. I go to the SEM for a lot of hours a day. Then I teach at Kingdom Prep in the afternoons. And then I got to do homework that goes along with it. And everything is crazy and hard. But 2 times a week, I get home at 3:30 before my kids get home so I can greet them at the door. And then I don't sit on the couch and scroll on my phone. I don't do anything else. Dadgummit, I get on the floor and I wrestle the heck out of those 3-4 boys. 3 of them can really wrestle. The 4th one just really watches at this point. But we wrestle and we are together and we are there. And I want them to know that in the same way I, as their father, will not sit up and scroll my phone and not do anything. I will come right down to their level and I will be with them on the floor. And I will wrestle with them, and I will be a part of their life. That's one way that you can realistically show love to your children. Number 2, discipline. Whew. This is a hard one, right? These are the truths that Solomon tells us. Train up a child in the way he should go, he will not depart from. We all know that one by heart, right? We all memorize that one. Do not despise the Lord's discipline, because the Lord disciplines those he loves as the Father, the Son he delights in. Whoever spares the rod hates their children, but no one who loves their children is careful. But the one who loves their children is careful to discipline them. We give discipline to our kids. We discipline them because we love them. We set limits and boundaries in their life, and we say, this is how far you will go. And if you go past that boundary, I'm going to discipline you. But we got to be careful. We have to be careful. A lot of people like to quote he who spares the rod spoils the child, right? Be careful, because Scripture also says this. Fathers, do not exasperate your children. Bring them up in the training of the Lord. Do not embitter them. How many of our kids today are living in houses that look like this picture? Where a father is unloading on his child, yelling at him, giving him a piece of his mind, thinking that this is how you discipline a child, overexerting himself. It's very difficult in a child's life, that border between love and discipline. All discipline needs to come from love. A great book for those with younger kids or any kids or grandkids at all is this. There's this guy, David Thomas. He wrote this book, Raising Emotionally Strong Boys. Sissy Goff writes one about girls. I can't remember the one about girls because I haven't read it yet because, ironically enough, I haven't had a girl yet. Fingers crossed. I don't know if that's whether I want to not have a girl or I'm hoping the next one. Yeah, I know. There was one of each of them. That's right. This is what Dr. Thomas says. We often try to rush the connections or force conversations before boys are ready. This is especially true with boys. When you catch a child and he's done something wrong, you want to rush to the point, get to the discipline. Anytime a parent or a child is emotionally charged, it's a bad time to do talking. It's not a good time for discipline. Discipline's about learning. We want kids to make the needed connections that allow for new behaviors next time. His big thing is these three things: recognize, relate, and repair. So he says, recognize, regulate, repair. If they're not regulated, they can't make connections. This is how males' brains work. You ever been in that? Men's brains, they've done a lot of study on this, where like if you are charged up, your brain is like Teflon. Nothing anybody says to you will stick. It'll just fly right off. It's not until you get to a calm space that you begin to understand and you'll listen to reason. Our young boys are exactly the same. We need to let them recognize what they've done is wrong. Once they've come down from that, they're going to be able to regulate their emotions and their behaviors. And then that's the time that you're going to deliver discipline then to them and say, just so you know, I want you to make the connection between this. I am chief of sinners and spanking a child when I'm in the heat of anger. Don't get me wrong, I am the chief of sinners in that. But I have to remember, what's the point of the discipline? How does God want me to discipline? He doesn't want me to exasperate my children. He wants me to love them. Last things, let's get through them real quick. Be with your kids in the Word. This talks about the statutes of Jacob for the next generation. The children will not know about the truth of God unless you, the father, are the one bringing it. Don't pass it off to a pastor. Don't pass it off to a teacher. Don't pass it off to somebody else. It's your responsibility. Love your children in the Word. Whoever fears the Lord has built a secure fortress. Speaks about even when you give your children the Word and the Holy Spirit gives them faith, they have an inheritance greater than anything else you can give you. We so worry about our children. What career will they have? What will their future life look like? How will they present themselves in the world? Remember, their eternal inheritance is greater than anything you could possibly give them. Give them that hope. And the last one, as I close up here, never give up on them. Ever. Ever. There can be times where you're going to be so frustrated. I know that. And I only have little kids. And I'm not looking forward to the points in my life when I grow older and my sons break my heart. And I want to just say, enough. I poured myself into you and that's how you want to treat me? Don't do that. Love them. Because God did not send his son into this world to die for people who were right all the time before God and were good to him. God sent his world into a place where people rejected God and they rejected him. And God could have said, enough, phooey, I quit. But he didn't. He loved us all the way through it. He never gave up on us. God demonstrates his love for us in this, that while we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Now, I don't know if that answered the question of how to forge ahead as a father, because I'll be honest, I don't have the answer. But I hope that in our time together, it spurred some thoughts. I hope you're able to talk to some men around you to build these thoughts and work together. May God be with you as you continue to forge ahead as fathers. Thank you. Thank you.